Do you want to make money on Fiverr without having any particular skill or talent? Well, if you do a quick YouTube search, there's a ton of videos out there about how to make money on Fiverr easily with no skills, with no talent, magic, whole bunch of stuff. And you'll probably know if you've been on this channel that I'm not a huge fan of the idea of making money without doing any work because it's just not possible. But today, I actually have a Fiverr seller for you who takes a refreshing outlook on selling on Fiverr. He sent his profile to me for review. His name is Max, and when I asked what his skills were, he said, nothing in particular, but I'm happy to help out with basic things like data entry and things like that. So, I think this video is probably as close as we're gonna get to a point where I can say, hey guys, here's what you can do on Fiverr to make money without having any real skills, talents, or the willingness to go out and learn something really complex. We're gonna take a look at Max's profile. I'm going to give you some feedback, Max, to let you know how you might be able to improve. And for anyone looking to get started on Fiverr who doesn't necessarily have a really in-demand, technically proficient, or educational background in a particular skill to sell, this could be a good example of how you might be able to make money doing something basic like data entry. So let's get into it. But before we get into Max's profile, one thing I want to point out, if you're someone watching this video and you don't have any skills, you don't have any particular talents or any real complex ways that you can add value to people's lives, just know that if you're going to do something basic like data entry, you're probably going to be on the lower end of the price per gig spectrum. I talk about this a lot, but the amount you're able to charge people on Fiverr really has to do with the value you're able to provide. And usually, if you're providing more complicated services that require either a lot of past experience, education, or real raw talent to do, those are the types of things that you're able to charge more for. And if you're doing something basic like data entry, you probably won't be able to charge that much. So just have that in the back of your head, that you can totally do stuff like data entry and some of the stuff that we're going to show you that Max is doing, but put it into perspective, right? Set the right expectations, and that way you'll go into this with the right mindset to actually give yourself a chance of succeeding and being happy with the results you're getting. But if you are someone who wants to learn some skills that you can sell on Fiverr for, more than basic stuff like data entry, I put a link in the description and the comments to Skillshare. I'm a huge fan of Skillshare. They have a bunch of different courses you can take to learn new skills. They have a free trial. It's 2 weeks. You can even learn stuff in that 2-week period. Check them out if you're someone who maybe doesn't want to just do data entry and there's something you might be passionate about or want to learn and get good at. Totally support that. Number one tip though is if you do that, make sure you practice. If you're selling something on Fiverr, it needs to be top quality. Anyways, into Max's profile.
All right, so this is Max. Like we said earlier, Max had let me know that he doesn't have any thing in particular that he's super skilled at or proficient in, but he's just happy doing basic things like data entry. So looking at his profile here, you can kind of see that in the types of gigs he's selling. I will write unique and niche comments on your blog, so he's selling basic, he'll start the conversation for people on their blogs, kind of like fake engagement. I don't know how I feel about that. He'll run people's social media accounts, so, a little bit of social media administration that most people, I'm sure, are able to do. He'll help you out with data entry or research. Again, pretty basic. This one's related to where he's from. He'll answer your questions about sunny Singapore. So this is something I've talked about in the past. If you've traveled a lot or have a lot of knowledge on where you're from, you could sell that as like a trip planning service, or just give people general information about where you're from because you're the expert. And then a couple other ones: removing your background image, design professional logos, and create YouTube thumbnails. So overall, I think the theme of this Fiverr profile is that he will do basic stuff for a couple bucks, which is fine because that's what he's all about. Again, just the basic stuff, like that he's a profile picture. People like doing business with people. He says he's a male, 25, from Singapore. That's really cool. He's an accountant by day and do a little bit of investing and trading by night. So this is actually a fun fact. So when he said the reason for why he's selling on Fiverr, he said it was so that he can make more money, so he can do more investing and trading, which I think is really cool. He loves to read up about productivity and play sports too. Do drop me a message if you've got a job at hand. I'll see if I could service you as best I can. So interestingly, when Max sent his profile to me, he said he had no skills, but he's an accountant. You could totally sell some sort of tax planning or accounting services here on Fiverr for a lot more than $5. Anyways, Max, totally cool if that's not something you want to do. I don't know if there's like legal rules for accountants in Singapore, but something to consider. Okay, so I'm going to look at his data entry gig because that's the one he emailed me about. I will help you out with data entry or research. So from a subject line perspective, I would probably say something more basic. I will help you do data entry. Done. I would leave it at that if this gig is all about data entry. Pretty like it's a good looking thumbnail, but it doesn't really say anything. There's just a bunch of different file formats. So maybe what I would do is if the data entry he's doing has a lot to do with things like Excel, I'd put like an image showing like a couple cells in a spreadsheet and be like, I will insert data into large spreadsheets for you. I will transfer data from spreadsheet to spreadsheet, whatever. So about this gig, data entry, transcription, data entry, basic researching, photo editing, organize. Okay, so this is kind of like a catch-all. Just hit me up with what you'd like help with and let's work something out. We'll reply as fast as I can. Okay, so number one thing you got to change here is this description. So if this gig is about data entry, your description is saying it's about everything. You do social media advice, proofreading, organization, tagging of files. Listen, Max, if you want to sell data entry, you should totally do that. You will sell a lot more gigs if you make this description specific to data entry and outline the specific ways you can help them with data entry. That'll give them faith that this is something you're actually, proficient and capable at. It'll make it more clear as to what you do, because going through this list, the focus changes like 5 times. It's not helping you out. So write a description that focuses specifically on data entry. Maybe make a more specific and targeted photo, and you can brush up on the subject line just to say, hey, I'll help you out with data entry. It'll be targeted and specific. Charging about $10 US to do this service. I think this is fine, and I think this is the type of gig a lot of people can do. Most people that I talk to who sell on Fiverr from different parts of the world have access to a computer, have access to internet. If you have access to those two things, odds are you can help people out with data entry. So I think this is an excellent type of gig to do for people who don't have any particular skill sets. And if you're in process of learning a certain skill or talent, that's great, but data entry is something anyone can do. So Max, thanks for submitting your profile. Hope this was helpful.
All right, was that helpful? Max, thanks for sharing your profile. I hope the tips were helpful to you. And anyone watching, if you're someone who doesn't yet have any skills or experience that you can translate to a gig on Fiverr, take a look at what Max is doing, see if this inspires you to do something similar. And like I said earlier, if you want to put in the time to learn, get really good at something that can allow you to charge higher prices, check out something like Skillshare, YouTube videos, whatever. Put in the time to practice, and you can totally get to a point where you're selling something for more than just, basic $5, $10, $15 per gig prices. Anyways, that's it for today. So until next time, cheers.